The Splatoon series isn't known for its difficulty. Ever since the very first glimpse of the story mode, I've really wanted to get my hands on it. It looked like a bigger and better version of Octo Expansion, and I was kinda right about that. And I bet some of you know why I was so excited about it. It's Mr. He's a Bear, I knew it! Mr. Grizz is a bear, yes! Like any normal person, I was up at 5 AM wondering something. What exactly are the hardest stages in Splatoon 3? I had to go through every single stage and beat every single stage with every single available weapon, which sounds easy, right? No, it really wasn't. But I did get results. With all that said, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I believe to be the top 10 hardest Splatoon 3 stages. Have you ever wanted to experience what a severe panic attack might feel like? Well, Deadly Dance Hall Jump Jump is the stage for you. I put this one so high up on the list because it isn't a stage that's really difficult if you know what you're doing. It takes after the Octo Expansion stages where you are put on a platform and you basically just have to survive, except in Octo Expansion, if you get hit once, you have to restart. So this stage is a little more forgiving. However, that forgiveness does not last long, as around the 30-second mark, you have to deal with 8 of these things. What helped me get through this stage was just chilling out in the back corner, because then I could calculate when waves would be hitting me and I could easily jump over them. But as long as you're making consistent jumps, this really isn't a hard stage. You want to know what's funny? Is I actually struggled on this stage far more than I thought I would. Those aren't birds with the Dapple Doolies really threw me off because the Dapple Doolies range really doesn't help with this stage. Essentially, the gimmick of the stage is you stand in one place while targets fly at you and you have to shoot them down before they go over the edge. Or guess what? You die. Which means, of course, you have to restart. I think the hardest part about this stage is just the anxiety of trying to figure out where the target is going to go. The first half of the stage isn't that bad, as the targets come pretty slowly and there aren't really many to shoot down. Where the real fun starts, if you want to call it that, is in the second half when the game says, hey, let's fire a whole bunch of targets at you. I hope you can shoot them down with your limited range. Also, there's this really big, stupid target that flies super high up in the air, and it's really hard to coordinate where it's gonna land because of the depth perception. And as you can see here, I almost lost it. Yeah, that's gonna happen a lot. What helped me get through the stage was just standing in the center to try to see where the target was gonna land. And of course, it depends on your accuracy as well as the weapon you chose. In the end, this wasn't a super hard stage, it was just kind of long and boring, which is why it's so high up on the list. Ink Fast Hotshot is yet another stage where you're stuck busting targets. You know, I really have to ask, does anyone else get super stressed out while doing these stages? Cause like, I do, and yeah, I really don't like it. Now, this stage isn't the worst thing, as the first few targets are pretty easy to hit. It's the last few targets that are the problem. I hated these targets right here because the movement makes it pretty easy to hit a fail balloon, and of course you don't want to hit one of those, because if Octo Expansion has taught us anything, hitting a fail balloon or doing anything that makes you fail is a big no-no. I don't know if anyone else had this problem, but I was being big dumb and I kept falling off the stage. For real, every single time I fell off the stage, I just sat there with myself like, bro, what are we doing? Like, we could be finishing the stage, come on. But yeah, this isn't a too hard stage. You just gotta, you know, watch out for those fail balloons, and of course don't pull a me and fall off the stage a couple of times. As much as I don't like easy ride, tricky targets, I gotta admit, it's got some good music. I mean, listen to this. Whoever's in the studio needs to get a good raise. That is an epic song. Going back to the stage itself, I don't think it's absolutely terrible. It is pretty long though, which is a big component as to why I don't like it. What I find difficult about the stage is trying to figure out how to time your shots and how much ink you need, which as dumb as it sounds, I did run out of ink a couple of times, which on this stage is kind of a bad thing because you run out of ink, you miss a target, guess what? You gotta restart from the checkpoint, and those are pretty scarce. I mean, the stage isn't impossibly difficult, and it's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. It's a lot of trial and error. The ending of the stage is a little bit difficult your first time around because A, you don't really know what's coming, and B, you have to shoot around objects, which is why timing your shots is very important. You guys want to know two things that don't go well together? This crappy stage and the mini splatling. Really, the entire gimmick of the stage, as you can probably already tell, is the entire stage just starts sinking the second you step foot on it, which means there is very little room for error. Now, completing the stage with the Splooshomatic is actually quite simple because the Splooshomatic is a weapon that you can do splat dashing with fairly easily. What makes this stage hard to complete with the mini splatling is trying to find the correct balance between inking and charging your shots. To make things more difficult, there are enemies and boxes everywhere, which makes it difficult to progress in some areas. And when you think it's all over, it just gets worse. Towards the very end, the stage literally falls apart. There are some parts where it looks like you can walk perfectly fine, only to find out that, hey, the floor just fell underneath you and you're falling to your death. Like, come on, man, you can't do that. Honestly, I'm happy that I never have to deal with this stage ever again because it was a real piece of crap to work through. I'm just gonna come out and say this. I hated this stage. After playing time trial and errors with Squiffer a couple of times, I cannot tell you how much you need to worry about the errors portion. You need to break 60 target balloons in only 60 seconds. Crazy, right? I mean, it's right there. There's really no room for error on this stage. I absolutely suck with chargers, so I knew going into this that I was going to have a hard time. But man, this was something else. Missing shots or taking time to fill up your ink tank can waste vital seconds. A strategy I developed is only charging up the Squiffer a small amount. Not only does this save time, but it also saves a lot of ink, which as you might have guessed is kinda important. Honestly, this is another stage I'm glad I will never have to touch again. I really thought I was gonna like a Compulsive Collector's Paradise because I like to collect technology, so I thought, hey, maybe this stage is just for me. Haha, yeah, I was so wrong about that. Just to be clear, this is actually a pretty fun stage with the other weapons. However, the fun stops when you start using E-Liter. The objective of this stage is to collect 60 power eggs in 1 minute and 10 seconds. As I mentioned just a second ago, completing this stage with the other weapons really isn't that hard. For anyone here who's picked up an E-Liter, you know exactly why this stage is a pain in the butt. For those who don't know, the E-Liter 4K is a heavy sniper, which means it takes forever to charge, and it also uses quite a bit of ink. Now, I'll admit, the ink isn't really a huge problem as you have refills across certain parts of the stage, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't pay attention to it. But the thing that I hated the absolute most about this stage are the stupid flutters that patrol the area. I am 99% sure that their patterns are completely RNG based, which means any sort of strategy against them doesn't really work. I found myself constantly being cut off, which, you know, being on a time limit makes it extremely hard to get by. Also, if you missed a couple of power eggs, it can be pretty difficult to backtrack as the time limit is breathing down your neck. You know, I really don't even have any tips for completing this stage. It's really just up to luck. The enemy ink is lava. Nintendo really looked at Can't Touch This Station from Octo Expansion and said, yeah, let's make this 3 times harder. Great work, guys, let's go set fire to a building. As I just mentioned, this is a stage pulled directly out of Octo Expansion, but it's been enhanced a little bit. For starters, you have a time limit for some reason. You know, I really don't know why Nintendo thought adding a time limit is a good idea, seeing as how this stage doesn't really take that much time to beat. In addition to the pointless time limit, you can only throw one curling bomb at a time, so you better make sure you're pretty accurate with it. The hardest part about this stage is, of course, not touching the enemy ink, which, as you might have guessed, is everywhere. Now, the first few sections aren't that bad, as they kind of serve as a tutorial, but the later sections are the absolute worst. Some of these make you take a step back so you can calculate how you want to approach it. And it's good that you can get a bird's eye view before you actually try anything. Trust me, this is not a stage you want to be shooting in the dark for. Honestly, the hardest part about this stage, apart from the obstacles, is just the mental aspect. I'm constantly thinking about not messing up, which, as you might imagine, causes me to mess up. There's not much more I can really say about this stage. It's just avoid the obstacles and get to the goal. You know what the hardest part about this stage is? Trying to pronounce the name correctly. All right, number 2, the obscurest. Oh crap, what the heck is this? Shiartskurist? Chicago. Wait, there's not even a G there. What the heck? I honestly thought this battle was going to be pretty easy, seeing as I'm facing Big Man. I mean, he's Big Man. Look at him. I'd be lying if I said this wasn't difficult my first time around, because yeah, it definitely was. The battle starts when Big Man turns into a giant manta ray that covers a large portion of the stage. And that's honestly your first problem, is just the sheer size of Big Man. As you can probably see here, Big Man inks turf as he moves around the stage. Given his sheer size, this becomes a problem very fast. If you shoot him enough, he starts to create clones, which continue inking turf. These clones are incredibly easy to lose track of as they move faster and faster the smaller they get, and you can be overwhelmed by them rather quickly. The second stage wasn't too bad, it's the third stage where I really started to struggle. Did I mention Big Man really loves to throw bombs and torpedoes at you? Because, yeah, he really does, and it's annoying. As Big Man covers a large portion of the map with his ink, it becomes very hard to avoid the bombs and the torpedoes. I would recommend upgrading your ink take as well as your hero shot, because you don't want to be left in a situation where you don't have an escape route, because you will die that way. In some situations where I had an escape route, I still got overwhelmed because the manta rays kept inking the turf underneath me, which made me a sitting duck, and yeah, Big Man loves to throw his bombs, and he did. If your hero suit breaks, even the smallest amount of damage will kill you, so you need to be aware of that. Even though this fight was a pain in the butt most of the time, I actually enjoyed it. The boss fight wasn't too easy, but it also wasn't a reason for me to throw a controller at the wall. That's the next stage on my list. After freaking Alterna, where the heck do I begin with this piece of crap stage? What freaking Nintendo employee thought this was a good idea? I want to know. This stage made me freaking suffer. After Alterna is no joke. This is absolutely the hardest thing in Splatoon history. I will say that it is much harder than Inner Agent 3. That is a fact. I'm sorry, but it just is. Now, the actual sections are hard, yes, but the most unforgivable aspect about After Alterna is just how much you have to endure. These stages feel like they go on for an eternity. And guess what? There's no freaking checkpoints! Well, apart from the next section, but still, it's all crap! How do I say this? It's like, the stage is in your head the whole time, like, don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up. If you mess up, you have to restart. And like, that's just the hard thing, is, I can't even put out this, I can't even talk right now, it's so terrible. I believe there's 4 sections. There's this section, there's the other parkour one that has a checkpoint, and then there is, of course, a section where you do nothing but grind on rails. And then finally, you have to beat a whole bunch of octolings. And yeah, it all sucks. I can't tell you how soul-crushing it is to finally beat a section and then realize, oh crap, there's another section I have to beat. And the cycle just continues. In my opinion, the absolute worst section is the last one where you have to face all the octolings. It is legitimately like facing multiple Inner Agent 3s. The AI isn't stupid in this game. Like, it can aim. I don't know if that's 100% true, but it definitely does feel like their AI has been tweaked at least a little bit. Now, my only motivation My light at the end of the seemingly endless tunnel was the Teddy headband. I absolutely love bears. Anything bear or Splatoon related is a must-have for me. So obviously I needed to go get it. That was the only thing I cared about. And guess what? I succeeded. I did it. And I can finally put this horrible stage to rest. Goodbye and good riddance after Alterna. Hey everyone, thank you so much for sticking around to the end. It really does mean a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This video was really fun to make, kind of painful in some areas, but overall really fun. Before you leave, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing as it helps me out a lot. But one more thing before you go. I have a really dumb bear joke for you guys. What is a bear's favorite cooking utensil? A pan. Duh, how'd you not know that? You know, that sounded a lot better in my head and it sounds stupid out loud. Oh man, I'll just go ahead and leave. See you guys next time.